Okay, I often get questions about using pixel tape with QLC Plus. So I decided to do a little video discussing using pixel tape and the matrix generator on QLC Plus. So first of all, let's talk about pixel tape for a minute. So with pixel tape, it's basically a tape with LEDs on it, but each LED is individually addressable. You can individually light up each LED in a different color. So this kind of tape is completely different from your RGB LED tape you're used to using. If we take a close-up here, you can see your typical RGB tape would have 4 channels. It would be RGB, red, green, blue, and then a ground channel for that. You can see here that we have plus 5 volts, data in, and then a ground channel. So it is totally different. First of all, your typical RGB tape is going to be 12 volt, 24 volt. This is 5 volts, runs on 5 volts. Then you need a special driver or hardware driver to communicate with this tape that will convert your DMX information into the kind of data information that this tape would understand. So we're looking at some kind of a driver to actually work that. So you have the options of, here's one typical driver that will drive the tape. And this has data 1, data 2, and data 3. So this would drive 3 pieces of tape. And you have your 5 volt input here. This particular one, you can actually use a 3-pin DMX connector to go in and connect to this one. Another type of one, and I would probably prefer this one. This is ArtNet. So on this end here, you have your ArtNet inputs, which QLC Plus will output ArtNet to a network natively. And then with this particular one, it's called Entech Octo. It will output 8 universes of pixels. So 8 times 512 channels. Now you're probably wondering, why do I need that many channels? Well, if we go back to this tape for a minute, this particular tape is about 16.5 feet long, so many meters, has 300 LEDs. Each one of those LEDs has 3 channels of communication. So right away, this one piece of 16-foot tape has 900 channels of information. That is 2 universes, and that's just one piece of LED pixel tape. You need 2 universes to control this one piece of tape. So when you get involved with these pixel tapes, it's a lot of information that has to be output. QLC Plus will output multiple universes. All depends upon the power of the computer that you have the software on. So there you have it. There you have your pixel tape. You have your control units that will convert the DMX information over. And then I just threw this in. This, of course, is going to be a power supply, 5 volt power supply that you're going to need to supply power. And this particular one has an adapter, so you can use the wires and connect it to your controller here for 5 volts and also power your LED pixel tape with that. Okay, so that being said, here's a little example of what we could do with QLC Plus, and I'll go over to that. So I'm going to take this one piece of pixel tape and use that to create kind of a miniature LED panel. And I say miniature because my idea was, okay, if we take this one piece of pixel tape, it's about 16 feet long, and what if I do make a little square kind of LED panel out of it? So about 17 pixels wide and about 17 pixels tall. So I would take my tape and arrange it in that manner. Now, one of the things I can do is take my tape and kind of snake it back and forth. So I do 17 LEDs this way, then put a little bend, and I'd have LED 18 through 34 here, and then 35 through 51, and then 52, and just keep snaking it along and bending the tape. Of course, the tape doesn't always bend too well at the corners here. So that would be one arrangement, and it's important to know how you're arranging your LED pixel tape so we can tell QLC Plus what we've done and how we've arranged it. So this would be one way of arranging it, snaking it around back and forth. Another possible arrangement would be to cut the tape, every 17 LEDs, cut it into pieces. So in this case, I'd have my first LED here, 17.1 here, then 18 through 34 here. And it's important, you have to look at each one of these LED lights as an individual fixture or an individual head. So you have to keep the arrangement here so that QLC can know how to communicate and the data can go out to these lights correctly. This one would entail, so you'd have one strip and then you'd have to connect this with a little data cable over to the beginning of this one. Like maybe imagine this is a wall and you have a strip of tape and then maybe there's a hole, and behind this you use your data wire and connect over to this piece, and then you lay that piece and do a data wire in the background to connect them. So the only difference is instead of snaking, I have my LED 1 here, LED 17 here, then 18 here, 34 here. This would be considered a zigzag setup because you're going 1 through 17 and you're jumping back here doing 18 through 34, jumping back and doing 35 for 51. The way that you have this laid out is really important because that determines the layout on QLC+. So now let's get over to QLC and do this. So I'm in my fixtures panel here. I'm going to create a LED or RGB panel, and I'm going to start at address 1. My first light's going to be address 1. I'm going to have 17 pixels across and 17 pixels down. So that gives me almost 300 LED lights. I'll have to snip a couple off at the end there, but this is as close as I could come to making a panel. We're going to keep it in the snake arrangement, so we're just kind of weaving it back and forth, and I'm just going to change this to 1000 millimeters. It just will help you to see this when I do this on the DMX monitor. Okay, so 17 lights across, 17 lights down. Now, the interesting thing with this piece of tape, if you do this, we're only going to create a display that's about 11.5 inches wide and about 11.5 inches tall. When I click OK, QLC will go through and create all this, and notice that it's automatically did my universe 1 and my universe 2. So I have all my channels in there. And it's automatically created the RGB panel up here. So if I click on this, here we have our 17 LEDs going across and our 17 LEDs going down. And keep in mind, each one of these has 3 channels of information going into it, okay? And for example, here's row 1. If I click on row 1 here, you'll see that I have 51 channels. The first light in the tape is going to have channels 1, 2, and 3, red, green, and blue. The second light row going across is going to be channels 4, 5, 6. The next light is 7, 8, 9. So just the one row is going to take up 51 channels of information. Row 2 is channels 52 through 102, another 51. Row 3 and so on. So you can see all the channels. So you can see by the time you get to row 10, it's going to be channels 460 through 510, and a universe of DMX only has 512 channels. So what they did here is then for row 11, they popped over and we're doing 1 through 51 in universe 2 now. So basically I need at least 2 universes of control to be able to run this one piece of pixel tape. That is if I'm controlling each pixel individually. All right, so I've got it's all set up, ready to go. We'll go over to functions here, and I'm going to create an RGB. Now it comes up, new RGB matrix. I can call this whatever I want, and I'll call it Demo 1. All right, and now one of the things I have to do is click up here and select my RGB panel that I'm using, and immediately it comes up with kind of a display, 17 across and 17 down, and it starts with some of the patterns that I can possibly generate with the matrix. Now again, keep in mind when you're doing this, this display here is meant to give you an idea of what is actually happening with the lights, but it's not really showing it in real time. So I prefer to see things on the DMX monitor so I can see how things are actually running and not just a kind of a simulation of what's running. So let's bring up our DMX monitor. I've got my RGB panel up and selected here. So if I click on my DMX monitor and I look at my RGB or my values screen here, you can see here's my row 1, 17 lights going across, and if I click run, you'll see the red values being turned on. Okay, you can see the red values happening all through the whole system here. But this doesn't help me much as far as what I'm actually seeing, so I would like to look at this in the 3D view. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, and I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to bring up, I'll just stop this for a moment. We're going to bring up our row 1 and display that up here. And this is why I did the 1000 millimeter. It just brings these up a lot larger so you can see it. So if I do run now, you'll actually see this is just the row 1 pixels being lit up and changing as they go across here. Now here's the issue that comes in. So this is LED 1 here and this is LED 18. Now if I bring up my row 2 display, and I'll bring that up, and you look at it, you say, wait, something's wrong, it's running in reverse. That's because this display here is looking at this. This is LED 18 and this is LED 34. But remember, we snaked this arrangement, so I actually need my LED 18 over here and my LED number 34 over here. So we can arrange that. I'm going to select that one again, and then I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees so it's flipped. So now these will actually match. So I've got LED 1 here, LED 17 here, LED 18 here, LED 34 over here. So now you're getting the idea why it's important that you know your pixel tape layout, whether you've done a snake layout or whether you've done a zigzag layout. Okay. Now to be able to create this whole monitor, I'm going to just kind of jump ahead and then I'll jump back into the video here. Okay, so I finished putting together my DMX monitor here so I can actually see what my lights are doing. So basically I had to take all of my even rows like row 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16 and flip them 180 degrees again so that my pixels would be in the correct order. So again, LED 1 here, LED 17 here, 18 here, 34 here, 35 over here, and then so on. So my arrangement is that snake arrangement that goes back and forth like this. All right, but that will give me the correct output when I'm designing something. What I make happen on here will come out the way I want it to look on my little square. Keep in mind, this is one piece of pixel tape, 300 LEDs, and 17 by 17. Basically, if you did this, it's about 11.5 inches by 11.5 inches. But now we can run any of the fixtures that are in the matrix generator here. Now, keep in mind again, this is just kind of a representation of what you're going to get. What's actually happened is being demonstrated here in the DMX monitor. So I can change the speed here or adjust the speed of this to happen quicker. You notice that's proceeding across here quicker. Notice no change over here. So this is just, again, a visual representation. It's not really what's happening with the lights. This over here, your DMX monitor, is actually showing you what's actually happening as far as timing goes. And again, you could change things like fade in and fade out time on here, and that's going to make it look a little bit different too as it's going across. Now, we've changed the time here too because of the fade in and fade out time has been added. Notice that this slowed way down because we've added the fade in and fade out time to the whole timing of this. So let's say if I adjust these fade in and fade out times down a little bit, you'll see it fading in and fading out as it's moving across here. And I can probably actually set this one to 0 and you'll see it fade in and fade out. So you can use your clock structure here to affect what's going on. Now if I reduce these to 0 and then I do need a time here, 77 milliseconds, you'll see if I crank this up it slows down. Okay, This is how long it takes to get from one light to the other light that's happening in there. Changing colors, we can click up here, click on the colors. I can go here and say OK. So now it's going to be blue. And if you use two colors, what will happen is it will change colors from here to here as it progresses across. So if we make the second color, let's say pink, and I'm going to bring this up here, set it to pink. As it progresses across, it will change from one color to the next color. So if you put two colors in, this particular matrix function changes from this color to this color as it progresses across. Okay, so now you can try any of your other matrix functions on here, and any of them will work. We can do image, we can do balls here, and again, change the color of the balls. Say OK. So now the pink, so we kind of got a mini LED screen going on in here, and then you can change the size of them, whatever you'd like to do. Let's just try one other one here. We can do plasma, and then you'll see some colors going across here with the plasma. You can adjust the rainbow, or if you want an ocean where it's just kind of blue colors, the blue plasma colors, and you can see some of the variations in there. So then you can go ahead and run any of the matrices that you want to run. Okay, I'm going to go back to my stripes mode here and my stripes pattern. And I had two colors, but if you click on the X up here, it will get rid of the second color. So now I'm just keeping the one color going across. Again, look at your controls. Depending upon what kind of matrix effect you pick, it will decide what's happening with the matrix. And again, I can do this vertically now too, so it goes from top to bottom of my display. Okay, and then there are some things with control mode and blend mode that you can look in the manual for. Now, keep in mind too, once you create a matrix effect in here, you can either keep the matrix here. One of the things that I like to do is just go ahead and make this into a sequence. So once I've got the timing and everything the way I want it, just click on this sequence button up here, and now it will make a sequence out of this, and they called it by the same one. It's called Demo 1 Sequence. So let me stop this, and let me go to the sequence. So now this sequence that I'm running here is going to be the same effect that I created with the matrix generator. So what I like to do with the matrix generator is create my effect and then go ahead and save it as a sequence. Then I can connect these sequences to buttons in my virtual console and make them do what I want to do and have my effects all ready to go. So what we've shown here then is that QLC Plus can run the matrix and it can run this pixel tape. Our problem here is that this is a very, very small display. So in order to get something that's going to be bigger display-wise, we have to use more pixel tape, which means more outputs, more universes. So this can get very intense very, very quickly here as we start to add more tape and more fixtures to this, and already we're in 2 universes. If we're using 4 pieces of tape, now we're into 8 universes of output. And if we're using 8 pieces of tape, now we're into like 16 universes of output that we need to be able to output here. So it gets exponentially larger and larger as we go along here. Now there is one way to kind of work around this, and that's there's a program out there that's put out by Entech. These guys are kind of lighting professionals, and it's called Entech LED Mapper. So using this software, it would be kind of a go-between software that would run between QLC and your DMX output, and this would help you set up how exactly you want your LEDs to run. So if we're back here, we set up a big LED setup, and say we want first 4 LEDs here to work as if they're 1 pixel, and then the next 4 to act as if they're another pixel. So that's going to require less information output from QLC Plus to do that. So we're going to be grouping the LEDs in groups and making them like 1 pixel. So this LED Mapper software that you can get from Entech will do that for you. It allows you to map, which is going to kind of reduce the amount of DMX channels that you'll probably need from QLC Plus to run the pixel display that you're going to do. So that's one way of getting around it. The other way is really just need to, if you're going to be heavy into doing pixel mapping and that kind of thing, you probably want to look at something that's more professional software where it can handle multiple universes and all of these pixels that you're going to be dealing with. So, all right, kind of a complex subject. I hope this helps make it a little bit more clear to you what's going on here. And if you do have any further questions, feel free to send them to me via YouTube or either visit my webpage, and I'll try to answer your questions.